Hello and welcome to this talk on the whys behind the hows of Proyecto Slam. My name is Jonathan Teuma, and before starting, like to thank the organizers of this symposium for allowing me to collaborate. So, the Proyecto Slam is an educational association that has been working with young adolescents uh, for coming up to 15 years now, since about 2010, with this overall objective that you can see here, and these more specific objectives. These, in a sense, are the whys behind the hows. They want to encourage self-expression, critical thinking, improve public speaking skills and reading and writing skills, and of course form a community among young participants to give it all meaning beyond the classroom and beyond the workshop. The underlying philosophy is entrenched in the Jaen's four pillars of education. The idea of attention, grabbing students' attention in a meaningful manner that gets them engaged with the work to be done. Active engagement through constant work, and a student-centered approach that puts them at the center of the activity. Positive feedback as a means to get the best results, and finally consolidation of the work being done. Another key factor is Dweck's growth mindset, the idea of getting away from the debate between talent and work, nature and nurture, and getting to where you think you are on that, and more importantly, the importance of the process and of work, and of, again, in terms of linking up to positive feedback, of getting students to believe they can actually do it. Fundamental to all of this is the role of mentors, and we'll be speaking a bit more of that as we go along. The overarching structure is that it's a 4-year poetry workshop program designed around the ESO curricula. Most of these objectives that I have mentioned before line up with the objectives within the standard curriculum. They work with 3 workshops per year, normally the third of which is followed by a grand slam involving poets from other cities and Jaen itself and the students in a big theater event. And there's also a publication of a magazine with students' poems and regular team slams. Again, the idea of which being to create a community around the creative writing and performing, and consolidating. Again, the fourth pillar of Jaen's educational theory, consolidating the work that is being done in workshops and in the class. This is achieved by applying maximum flexibility to the curriculum that you're seeing before you now, or to the general objectives in these. These in themselves are quite flexible. For example, year 2 is there with rhetorical devices because the school curricula start to introduce rhetorical devices in year 2, and so Proyecto Slam adapted to that, whereas if it were up to them, they would have had it in year 3 after rhythm and imagination. In the same manner, year 1 workshops that are normally focused on group rather than individual work, in order to foment a growth mindset by getting the students to be creative without asking them directly to be creative, is often applied in year 3 or year 4 or year 2 if they come to a new school, and if students have not previously done any poetry workshopping, they might start in each year with year 1 workshops, so that even the year 4 students can get the benefits of that, rather than having to struggle through more advanced workshops when they haven't done the previous work. Um, so in that sense, the idea is, that the program works almost as a Jenga set that can be reorganized in terms of what students need. Regular meetings are also held after each workshop between coordinator and mentors in order to ascertain what has been working and what hasn't, and see what needs further implementation or indeed removal from the program in relation to specific groups and their particular needs. So, how do they do this constant reevaluation? Well, the mentors are fundamental to this. Yeah, they normally work with 6 to 7 mentors per year who receive, before starting their work, 3 to 4 workshops. Yeah, they finally have to deliver a workshop to their colleagues and the team and the project coordinator to show that they have integrated the principles and ideas behind, and they often do a bit of shadowing with more experienced mentors uh, before they go into class alone. There is a twofold ongoing supervision that occurs here. So first is that, well, they both occur at the same time, but with two aims. It's after each set of workshops has been delivered, mentors and coordinator meet up to discuss what has worked, what hasn't worked in the programs, and what needs to be adapted and what needs to be implemented in the coming workshops. So, to give you an example, recently the project has been experimenting with Oettingen and Gollwitz's idea of mental contrasting by having students sit back, close their eyes at the beginning of a workshop, and um, trying to picture possible problems. If scenario, if I go blank, if I can't think of a rhyme, if I and then going on to a then scenario, a solution scenario, with the idea of how am I going to solve that possible problem. If I go blank, then I might doodle around till I come up with an idea, or if I can't think of a rhyme, I might continue the rest of the poem and then come back to it, etc., and so forth. What they found is that this works very well with some groups, whereas others don't necessarily have the capacity or the will to sit back and go through this process. So, on the basis of how it works with each group, they might decide to repeat it or not. That's one example of how different strategies are implemented and adapted to the ongoing process. Within the workshop, again, I will annex to the publication link to this talk some of the workshops, but I'm not going to do a detailed description of any one workshop, rather give you some general points that do apply to all of them and discuss the why. So, first of all, we have changing the classroom organization. The idea here, again, linking up to Jaen's first pillar of education, is to grab their attention as effectively as possible. Yeah, you might have them sit in a circle or sit in different groups with different students. Again, the idea is to break down traditional barriers that might exist between the mentor or teacher role and the students, even between the students themselves. Also give them the idea that something different, something special is going to happen today, or on the day. Then most workshops, if not all, start with a mentor reciting a poem, usually the product of the steps in the workshop that they will deliver that day. Yeah, if it's a blackout workshop, well, a blackout poem, or if it's a I am workshop, well, an I am poem. Again, this helps to grab students' attention. Mentors are encouraged. They don't have to be slammers. They don't have to necessarily be slammers, but they are encouraged to employ prosodic elements, so that students can later model their own performances on that and work the use of pitch, the use of volume, the use of pace, the use of rhythm, again, as a modeling technique for the students. Also helps them with mental contrasting, gives them an image of what they should be aiming for. The focus of the workshop should be on the student work, and this means that more than 50% of the workshop is dedicated to the reading of the students' poetry. Yeah, this also opens up this places them at the center of the activity and lets them know, that it's about what they have to write and they have to say. And it also opens the door for positive feedback, the third pillar. Yeah, we try to avoid censure and we avoid the traditional evaluation in terms of giving grades. Positive reinforcement instead is used with a focus on what works, certain elements of the poem that might have worked. um, and even with students who perhaps have not wanted to be there, or had not really put enough effort, well, at least maybe recognize that even though they haven't been there, they haven't wanted to be there, well, at least they've come up with something, this and that, or may sometimes ignore and focus on the positive of other students. Again, being about 20 to 25 students per class, you don't have time to comment on all of them, so you focus mainly on the positive ones. Yeah. In terms of positive reinforcement, and now we link up to Dweck's idea of growth mentality, we focus on the process and not the result. So the idea is not you're a good poet, not you're a natural, or no, you have a talent. The idea is, oh, you've worked hard on this. I can see you've put a lot of thought into this writing, into this piece. Yeah, again, because even students who might have a talent for this, and Goek's book, Growth Mindset, is very interesting, and proves and provides a lot of examples that even students who might be particularly talented can be set back by praise of talent rather than work, because in the end of the day, it creates sometimes a fear of failure rather than an enjoyment of the process. Yeah. So, and then of course, the idea is to experiment and enjoy what you're doing in the workshop. It has to be something fun, it has to be something special for the students. Beyond the workshops, as I mentioned earlier, there's continual strategic assessment of both the workshops and the mentors. The Teen and Grand Slam have both helped to create community. Teen Slams take place outside of school and at different hours, and they help to create a community around the slam and consolidate what has been learned in the workshops as students take their their poems to these slams, to participate in these slams. The Grand Slam, in much the same way, also gives students an idea of the wider community that exists in Spain and indeed Europe and the world. And again, there are opportunities, to consolidate their work. Again, we keep telling them that the product of these workshops can be improved upon, and the teen slams, the grand slam, and of course also the magazine gives them a reason, a motivation to continue to do so. To conclude, we could say that we can find a measure of Proyecto Slam's success in the positive feedback received from participating schools. Practically every school, not all, but most schools that have participated in the program have repeated and have called back to, on the project to have it continue in their schools. Having said this, there is a need for sustained funding. There's some inconsistent implementation in terms of all of the elements of the program. For example, particularly the magazine and the Grand Slam are elements that need investment in order to bring poets from other cities, in order to print the magazines. and sometimes have had to be forgone for lack of funding. Even the work of monitors should be remunerated, and is not. There's also a need for further investigation to determine the impact of this project. Thank you very much for listening.